Hello everyone, today we're back again in the React on Rails 7 app. This time we're going to be taking a look at, editing our posts. I kind of tossed a coin before I started the video, and I guess we're going with editing. What we're going to be doing is adding this little button here, similar to in your Rails scaffolds, how you can click on like edit on your posts, and it just lets you change the details. So we'll say like details were changed. The forms here still look kind of ugly, but for the sake of this CRUD app, we'll just stick with this. So we change it. You can see here, details were changed, just like we did. We can go back to our post list. We'll see the details are right here. And then if we visit this, you can see the details were changed, right? So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to have to do some changes to our Vite app or React app. But we're probably, hopefully not going to have to change anything else for our Rails app. So let's go ahead and let's just create our issue real quick. We'll come over to our issues, create a new issue. We'll say edit functionality for posts. As a post author, I'd like to be able to edit posts, right? Then we can submit the new issue. We can assign it to some poor schmuck on our team. We can give it a label of a feature or an enhancement here. And then we can go ahead and create a branch. We'll create this branch again. There we go, create branch, copy this, and then we'll come over to our terminal. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the terminal here. I'm gonna hit Control D in both of these so that you can see how I open these. So we're gonna go ahead and, we're gonna CD out of here into our video app. And then in our video app here, we want to do a git checkout main. So we can switch to our main branch, do a git pull. So pull our code in from our main branch. And now we can do we can paste this to check out this new branch here. So you can see I'm in the edit functionality for posts. And then if I want to split this terminal, I can do I think it's like Windows Shift, and I think it's plus, or maybe it's Alt Shift plus. Yeah, Alt Shift plus to open up another window here. I can then hit PWD to get the current directory, and then I can CD into this. And I'll zoom in a bit. And now I can CD into our client over here. And we can see we have the left side to run our Rails server, and we have the right side to run our npm run dev. Now, for the sake of this, I'm gonna go ahead and do a code dot real quick, and then I'll start the Rails server in the left console. So I'll do this, say Rails S over here, and then I'll do npm run dev in the right one. So now we have both of these running over here in this side. So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so you can still see it. But it doesn't get in the way, and then I'll move this over. Okay, so now we have all of this. Let me go ahead and close out of all of these windows over here and zoom in a bit so you can actually read what I'm typing. For the edit post form, we need to start by displaying this on the page again. So let's come into our client here, into our SRC, our features, and in here in our post, let's right click new file. This is going to be our edit post form.jsx. And then for our edit post form, we can once again just do a quick little function, close it, come down here and then say export default edit post form. And then inside of this edit post form, we can do a return for, I don't know, we'll just do something like this. We'll do a return for a div, which has, I don't know, an H2 that just says edit post form here, right here. There we go. Go ahead and save that. And now we can come over to our Vite app and refresh. The formatting will change because we're on a different thing here, but this should work now. So let's come over to our components and our app routes, and let's add in this new item into our app routes. So we have like the post/ID right here for our show page. We'll go ahead and copy this. And instead of doing /:ID, I'm going to do /:ID/edit. And then this will be our our edit post form. I should probably rename this so it's the post edit form. So let's go do that. My brain wasn't working. Let's change this to the post edit form like that. And then in our routes, we can switch this to be the post edit form. So it matches everything else. I'll just have to go through and edit my notes after this. No pun intended. Okay, so that takes care of that. We now have our edit route here. If we come over here to like this first post, which is post/23, we can then go to /edit, and that'll take us to the edit post form. So let's go over to our post edit form. Let's go over to our post edit form and implement this feature. For the edit post form, there's a couple things we have to do, of course. One is we're gonna have to grab our parameters. So in our post details page, let me actually go over here and manually do this. Post details, we're using the use params here from the React router DOM. We're gonna do the same thing here. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start with a use params. So we'll say import use params from the react-router-dom, just like that. Then we're going to have to come down here, and we're going to have to do another one for a const post, and it's going to be set post, and then this is going to be equal to useState with a null, which means we have to import useState from React, just like we normally do. And just as a spoiler, we are also going to use effect, just like we normally do. So that gives us those two. We then have the option of setting the error and the loading again, if you're so inclined. So like before, we had both of those states. And then the last one we're going to have here is going to be a const navigate, which is equal to use navigate, which we've also covered in this series before. The use navigate does come from the React router DOM. So let's go ahead and let's add that, use navigate. And let's come down here and let's say this needs to have a use effect, just like that. It'll change when the ID changes. And then inside of this use effect, we have to do a, this is going to be a little bit different because I have to refactor my notes again. We have to fetch the current post by ID, which we don't have this yet. So I have to actually create this. I'm hoping GitHub Copilot will do this for me. We have our API URL here, which means we're going to have to import that. We'll import the API URL from // constants.js. That makes sense. Oops. And then in here, we set the response to be this fetch for this ID. And then we'll take this, we'll say await response, we'll set post, otherwise we'll set an error, and then we can set the loading and all of that other stuff as well. So that takes care of that. Now in our edit post form, after we set this post, we need to come into here, I think, and actually call this. So we'll call fetch current post, and that should now be working for us. We can come over here and refresh. And in our Rails console, we can see when we refresh that it is actually doing that GET request. So that's good. But one thing to be aware of, which we'll have to fix later, I don't think anyone's caught this yet. When we refresh, you're going to see that we're doing one render, and then we're doing two renders here. So this is one of those instances where this isn't technically the best practice, but this is something we're going to have to deal with. When you use these use effects, depending on how you do things, you can cause a double render, which causes you to hit your API twice instead of once. We'll be cleaning this up in a future video, don't worry. But okay, let's go ahead and let's create this form. Now, this is going to use another event handler, but for now, we're just going to stick with this. So let's start by changing the H2 here to just say edit post. We can see that changed in our window there. Then we're going to have a form that we create with a on submit that says handle submit again, just like before. We're then going to have a div. This is going to be for our title. And then in here, let me just save this real quick. We're going to have a label for HTML for the, let's say this is like the post-title. And then we'll come in here and we'll do a BR. And then we can have our input, which is going to have a type equal to text, an ID equal to post-title. This has to match this one, remember. Then we're going to come down here. We're going to have this have a value of post.title. And then it's going to have a on change. And if you're wondering, this is just checking if the post exists before it calls title on it, so it doesn't error out if there is no post. We're going to have an on change for set post. Destructs the post, does the title, target value, all that other stuff that nobody cares about. And then we can go ahead and we can close, we can close this tag just like that. And now our input here is done. After the input, we're going to have to do the same thing, but for the body. So let's come in here. It's going to have a label for the post-body, a BR, a text area, an ID of post-body, a value of post?body, and an on change once again. And then the last thing we want to do down here is one more div. This div is going to be for our submit button. So we can go ahead and save this. We can refresh the page, but you're going to notice that we're running into an error because of this handle submit. So if we come up here, we'll see handle submit is not defined. Makes sense. We haven't defined the handle submit function. So let's come in here and let's define this. It's going to be an async function, needs to prevent default so the form doesn't cause a redirect. And then we have to do, I have to actually refactor the service that I have here to be inline, but we'll fix this later too. We'll do a method of put. We have to give it headers for the content type again. And then we have to give it the body, which is going to be a stringify on the post. And that's going to allow it to do the update here. And then we check if it actually updated. If it did, we can say this was successful and we can navigate to /post/ID. Else it wasn't successful. So for now, we'll just throw a response. We can then do a catch on our try statement. We scroll down, or we just console log an error, and then hopefully we can close out of this. And now if we come over here and we refresh, we'll see that the only thing we're running into here is a component is changing an uncontrolled input to be controlled. This is likely caused by the value changing from undefined to a defined value, which should not happen. Decide between using a controlled or uncontrolled input. For that, what we can do is we can come in here, we can get rid of this one and get rid of this one, and we can save these. And now we're going to run into this error here where it says, hey, this was null. And instead what we can do is we can do a if post isn't, if the post isn't defined, then return. That'll clean up that undefined error, and it'll also cause this to be a little bit more smooth. So now we can come in here and we can try to edit this post. So we have an hello world here one. I'm going to go ahead and change this to hello world 1, and we'll say testing 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll go ahead and click save. And when we do this, we can come in here and we can see that we started our put, and then we ran into unpermitted parameters ID, created at, and updated at. So one of the easiest ways we can fix this, if we come in here, is going to be to change this from just doing the post to being the post, but you're grabbing the post title and the post body. If we come over here and if we go back now, you see it did update, but we still had those unpermitted parameters. Let's go ahead and let's change this to hello world 2. And we'll say testing 2, and then we can click save. Now if we hit F11, we can scroll up here and we can see we're no longer getting those unpermitted parameters. We're still getting our double renders, of course, to the surprise of no one, but we're only getting this one update right now. We'll deal with the double renders in the future, but this does mean that we now have a working edit page. Now, as we move forward, because we really only have the delete option left, or the delete functionality, I want you to think about how we've been implementing these fetches and these updates that we've been putting in here. Because as you'll probably notice, a lot of our components tend to get bloated here. And just like with a Rails controller, where you're trying to keep a lean controller, you probably want to keep these components a little bit leaner. And for now, let's go ahead and let's actually commit this code because we're probably done here. So let's go ahead and let's do a git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say implemented edit. I'm going to come over here and close this. Implemented edit functionality. We can do a git push. Go ahead and push that up. Come over to our repository again to hopefully do this merge. Compare and pull request, and we'll say this wasn't too bad. Create the pull request. And then if you want to, if you ever need to, you can like request a review. So you can say, well, this needs a reviewer. I can't request myself, but then they'll come over to the files here and they can like review these. So they can say, all right, I viewed this change. This change makes sense to me. And then maybe somewhere else in some other file, like maybe the app routes right here, they could be like, I don't know. Why are we doing this? So you can just say start a review. That'll do this review right here, and then this will be something that you yourself have to deal with later, and then eventually everyone can sign off on it. You can submit your review, say it looks good to me, and then we're good. And then eventually, once all of these things are resolved, so we can say I've resolved this conversation, everything's resolved, I can then go ahead and merge the pull request, confirm merge. This is again going to vary depending on what type of version control you use. Issues closed. So like Bitbucket and GitLab and GitHub and whatever else you possibly use, they all have slightly different variations of this flow, this workflow, but it's going to be something similar. You have pull request, you commit to it a bunch of times as you work on it, then you create your actual pull request, you have someone look at it, they leave you feedback, you change the code. You don't get, offended by it. It's not like they're saying you're a bad developer. They're just catching stuff that you missed. Like you see the stuff I miss in the videos all the time. And then you go ahead and then you merge it whenever it passes the pull request review. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.